Hey there. So I have two festival gigs this year where I'm headlining. One at Fractal Fest in Massachusetts next week, and one at Astronax in Texas in October. And as some of you know, my live rig is an absolute mess of wires and gear, and I thought that I could save some time carrying and setting up some stuff like my Yamaha montage, vocal effects, loopers, drum machines, if I had the new Akai MPC Key 61. So on paper, the MPC Key solves a whole lot of these problems for me and consolidates it all into one keyboard. In reality, yeah. The NPC keys, by the way, have been really hard to get since they released it. They're selling like hotcakes, and I've only heard great things about them. Music Radar gave them a 5 out of 5, so how could I go wrong? I finally found one last week by using a Python script that checks to see if a specific Amazon product is in stock and then notifies me via email. After tax, it set me back over $2,000. I'm somewhat familiar with the NPC environment, so I figured I'd brush up on some of the new features and make a little video feature so I could have something to keep the algorithm gods happy here while I'm rehearsing and traveling for this first gig. You should know that this video is not going to be good. I don't even think it's really going to be funny. I really hate making negative content, and I'd much rather tell you about something awesome, or at least teach some of my viewers something. The plain truth is that the NPC Key is very unfinished. Some of the bugs that I encountered were bugs that a lot of other major gear manufacturers would not allow out of alpha into private beta. And yeah, every now and then, every company just has some bad luck and a rocky product release, but I'm a day one Akai Force owner, and the thing was a doorstop for the majority of the time I owned it due to it simply not getting the features it promised until it had been on the market for over a year. Now that I've more or less paid just under $4,000 to Akai for the privilege of beta testing two of their products, I feel like I have the right to be cranky about it. And so should anyone who owns it. The only reason I'm not just cursing the thing on Twitter and scratching this video entirely is because at some point I just decided to zero in on making the flashbulb or glitchy beat track on a device that is absolutely not designed for that purpose. And it actually turned out kind of interesting. I feel like most of my longtime subscribers have already been salivating about this thing. There are plenty of other channels that summarize the features of the hardware and software probably much better than I could. So if watching a heavily edited video of me spending 2 long days making a song and being frustrated and intrigued at the same time is up your alley, well then let's go. Oh, that's so satisfying. So here is the MPC Key 61 in all of its glory. I do wish that it was an MPC Key 88 with fully weighted hammer action keys, but that does not exist, and I probably would have paid an extra $1,000 for that. I would have even paid a couple hundred extra for an MPC Key 73. I just like having a little more space to play, but this'll do. I'm gonna be totally honest, until now at least, in my opinion, every single MPC product has utterly failed in the piano department, even with third-party libraries installed. Your options are basically sample a piano performance from a real piano or a plugin or something, or just don't have a piano in your song. So it's safe to say that I'm really excited to hear how this sounds. I'm gonna be even more honest with you, and this is entirely my fault, and I'm a complete imbecile, but I spent the entire morning making a video with the Fabric pianos. With it having a name like Fabric XL and being first on the list, I just assumed that it was Akai's new flagship piano. Turns out that it's not. Stage piano is that. So in the future, if you find yourself in front of one of these and want to test out the piano and EP sounds, Stage piano and Stage EP are your go-tos. I immediately just want to turn the reverb down, turn the release up just a bit. Ooh, a hammer fall control. Much better. Nice. These so far lovely piano sounds do come at a tax. They take 4 channels, and I'm curious to see what the CPU usage is like. So by default, just by having this loaded, we're using 5%, 6% of our CPU, 24% of our RAM, and the drive, you can upgrade that. So let's try it while we're playing it. Oh yeah. It'll be interesting to see what the other instruments and effects use, but a piano with no effects on it pushes it past 1/3 of the CPU limit. It seems like as long as you're using effects inside stage piano, then it's not pushing the CPU any further. But let's hear these other models. Reverb down. Not bad. Do love an upright. Finally, we have a workstation piano, which I guess is supposed to emulate the sound of like a Yamaha Montage or something. Not sure why. Ranking the piano models from top to bottom, I would say that the Yamaha C7 Grand is number 1, the Upright's number 2, Steinway D is number 3, and Workstation is like number 94, because why would you? I'm excited to see these EPs, because while I did appreciate the unusual and unexpected update of all of a sudden having electric pianos inside my MPC Live and MPC Force, they didn't sound all that great. And so this is exciting. Ooh, a planet. These are all filled with effects, and I just don't want any of the effects. There we go. Go away. Yeah, that sounds nice. I really do appreciate that you could adjust the mechanics. Oh, that's beautiful. All right, now let's turn on some of these effects. Whoa! I got some bad news for you. This patch alone can use up to 55% of the available CPU. Good Lord. Creating a piano or an electric piano emulation that not only sounds good but plays good is extremely difficult, whether it's physically modeled, sampler, rompler, or a combination of all of those things. And that is a feat in itself. Congratulations, Akai, you did a great job. But there is one hard truth with the CPU usage. And that's, this can either be an MPC or it could be a stage piano. You can't have both. What I mean by that is that if you're working on a track or a sequence and you want to have one of these nice sounding pianos and one of these nice sounding electric pianos, along with some drums and a bass and whatever's in your effects chain, it seems like you're likely going to be going above the CPU limit. So you could use this as a workstation or a stage piano. However, if you're using it as a stage piano, there is a pretty significant loading time with some of the pianos in comparison to something like the Yamaha Montage, where these patches load up instantly. For anybody who's used to NPCs or pretty much any type of sampler, even VST plugins like Contact, if you're loading a piano patch that sounds good, you know you're going to have a little bit of a waiting time that's just kind of part of the deal. However, if you're a performer, depending on the type of gig that you have, sometimes you don't have the luxury of 5 seconds to spare. Of course, Akai is well aware that stage piano and stage EP use a lot of CPU and memory, which would explain why they've made Fabric Piano and Fabric Electric Piano, which are kind of scaled down versions, so you could still use those in workstation mode when you're creating a song or a beat or whatever it is. So that's good. However, Fabric seems a little buggy to me. So let's try some different presets here. Studio Grand. Oop, takes a minute to load. Takes a real minute to load. Ruh-roh, here's an upright piano. Everything looks to not be muted. All these seem to be fine. Well, that's not good. This bass is only in my left speaker. I hear some of the reverb in this side, but nope, looks like it's pretty much centrally panned. This has happened to me like 3 or 4 times, and initially I ended up troubleshooting everything and noticing that the VUs looked like it was almost entirely panned in the left channel too. Okay, so layer 2 is disabled here. Turn the sends all the way down. And if I pan it to the right, it will only show up in the right speaker, as you would expect. It actually sounds gorgeous. Exact same now the drums. Seems like everything in channel 1 has this panning issue. I'm gonna be totally honest here. I have probably half a dozen, give or take, pieces of music gear under this roof that have not been released yet. And that's because they're either sent here for this channel, or sometimes I make presets for things, or sometimes I get hired as a consultant. None of them have a bug that is as problematic or easy to find as the first channel only coming out of the left speaker. I don't want this to be a cranky video where I just find bugs and complain about them, but this is a bit much. By the way, this is far from the only bug that I've encountered here, but this is definitely the most repeatable one. Something that I'm thinking about right now is a few years ago, I bought an Akai Force. I pre-ordered it thinking that it would solve a lot of problems that I have with my live show, which I'm realizing is now a pattern. And I feel like the Akai Force wasn't finished software-wise for close to 18 months after I first opened the box. It was pretty much unusable for me, and I was pretty pissed off about it. I hate making bad reviews or super crabby videos because I could be spending that time showing you something that's cool or telling you something that's positive that makes your day better. So I'm gonna take my dog for a walk, I'm gonna get some food, I'm gonna turn lemons into lemonade, and I'm just gonna try and make a nice sounding song on this, and then we'll wrap things up. Okay? All right. All right, I did a factory reset. I restored all the firmware. Took about another 45 minutes out of my life, but maybe this panning issue will be behind us. All right, Fabric XL, let's load touching taps. That sounds nice. Huh, let's just work on this instrument. All right, let's load a new plugin. So maybe, all right, let's just add a piano here. So we're going from C minor to G minor, but adding a little bit of a subtle A right before we get to the G minor, and then emphasizing the A sharp once we get to that G will make things sound a lot stranger. All right, what do we got here? Maybe add a new track. Maybe something a little more subtle. Maybe we should load a drum kit. I like the click better. This is not a kick drum. Ruh-roh. 2%, 3%, what? Yeah, not a bug at all. So this hi-hat. Guess what? It locked up. Reboot. So I made another drum kit without really diving into that one problematic menu, but I had to go into it just to change the tom to something else, and it crashed again, did it again, managed to get that pad 6 into something else, never looked at it again, but here's our drums. As for bass, I don't know yet. Yeah, I'm really blown away by how good this piano sounds. I gotta admit it. So as the beat comes in, I'm going to drop that C to a G sharp. So it sounds like this right now. But now it can go. Nice. Nice. Cool. I'm definitely not a seasoned double bassist, so I took what we recorded and split it up into all of its notes, and now I could individually tune each one being pitch perfect. I was just a bit sharp the whole time. Let's add in a channel strip. I just realized that I'm doing all of this EQing work on like $100 pair of headphones, and maybe perfection is the enemy of good in this case. My entire idea was contingent on the belief that I could go into here and hit record and just start adding in input. And I don't know why I thought that I could, but I can't. No. Yeah. I already fucked it up. I will get this. 4. All right, let's hear it. So after some manual and forum reading, what I was thinking of was a step sequencer in the MPC 4000, and that was discontinued in the Live and then Force and so on. Now, I'm not going to take away a point for that because the MPC Live came out, I think, over 10 years ago, so this is something I should have known. So in the last pattern, I had improvised a way to sort of make a Walmart version of flashbulb beats in real time, just by, well, not in real time because I cranked the BPM way down and then input the drum stuff. So what I'm going to do now is go into list view, which isn't anywhere in here. You have to go to the main menu and then to list edit. This is about as close to a step sequencer as we're going to get. There's a good chance that you're not familiar with my music at all, and if you're not, and if you're curious to what I'm trying to achieve here, search artist The Flashbulb, song, I don't know, Undiscovered Colors or Turning Alone. That's a flashbulb beat that I'm trying to achieve on this. Also, this is why I ended up liking the Polyend tracker so much and making so much content for it. And you could go back a few years and I made a video on how I made music in like 1999 using a Roland JX305 step sequencer, and I'll link to that in the description. I'm hoping that I could change the global timing while programming list edit. So this is like 145 BPM, but the beat is in half time. So that means that the kick will be at 1-1 at 1 bar 1 beat, and the snare will be at 1 bar 3 beats rather than 2. A normal 4 on the 4 would be a kick every single beat and then a snare on the 2 and the 4. So just for demonstration, if I wanted to make a very simple beat. Okay, let's hear that really fast. But we're going to do something way more difficult than that. I don't know if this was anyone's intention, but wow, this is going to make some unique sounds. Check this out. So this is just ratcheting, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's how many divisions there are. However, if you change the length of the overall gate press on the drum hit, you can bring it outside of sync with the BPM. Like, that is so insanely useful to me. Ooh. Yeah. I'm sold again. I like the MPC now. Hi from the future. I've created another kit that is just tambourines and hi-hats and a few rides. And now our loop should sound like. Okay. Apparently mother ducker input means that you're creating an output. Okay. This whole list edit region, the way that it behaves with the knobs, just reminds me of going to like a museum and seeing like an old outdated exhibit way at the far end of the basement that hasn't been updated since like the 80s. Just like time forgot about it. Like twisting this big knob right now would just change my overall track. This just changes the playhead. Why? Metronome enable and disable. Yeah, they have absolutely no bearing on anything that goes on here. You're just limited to the touch screen. Now we just need a really long, slightly out of tune pluck sound over the top. I feel like there's so much more that I could do with this song, but I'm just simply out of time and I need to actually work on my set. So before we listen to the whole thing, I'm gonna, what? Hey, look, another bug. The knobs don't work in the pitch shifter. When I was making the last few patterns or sequences, I had this conspiracy theory in my head that some of the newer instruments were cutting some of the poly of the older instruments. Like, for example, that first, God forbid it actually loads the instrument, right? This. It sounds like it was actually cutting the poly from that when I added more things like that sort of backup pad EP sound. And the truth is, if I had the time, I would spend the next week finishing this and probably cursing constantly while doing the whole thing, but I don't have the time to do that. And then again, why wouldn't I just do it on the computer at that point? If it's becoming such a struggle to get that sound, this is kind of more in my opinion realm than in the actual useful information realm. I'm gonna fix this lighting. So there's this level in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 called Skate Street, and it's one of the competition levels. I've unlocked every single thing in the entire game, but for some reason, I can't get a gold medal on Skate Street. I'll have a phenomenal run and then bail at the last moment, or sometimes I'll have a phenomenal run and inexplicably get a silver medal, not understanding how I could have done any better. It makes me miserable and frustrated, yet I still play it to this day. I don't understand why, I just do. That's kind of how I feel about my last 2 days with the MPC Key. It's just puzzling to me. I know that if I were able to get through the bugs and user interface issues, it still wouldn't allow me to make a better track than I could make otherwise in my recording studio, but I want it to work really bad. I want the pointless gold medal. I think this is because the pianos don't just sound good, they sound phenomenal. The 4-op synth is extremely powerful and inspiring. With maybe a little bit more memory and CPU power, if Akai spent more time on research and development, this could easily be the best DAWless workstation in the world. But all of the many things that surprised me about it and that are so great about it are just painful to use at the moment, and I wish more than anything that this wasn't the case. I keep going back and forth between being amazed and inspired, and then pissed off and discouraged. But that tells me that there's a lot of potential. It's just that when it comes to something like meticulously creating a drum kit or recording a piano performance, the stakes are really high. Bugs in this process become workflow killers, and the user feels like their creativity was wasted. So will I be using this next week at my show? Probably not. Ableton Link works with my Force, but it doesn't work with MPC Key, neither with Ethernet or Wi-Fi. It's frozen up on me a half dozen times, usually when using the vocal doubler on a live input, which is one of the reasons I bought it in the first place. The Q knobs seem to unassign themselves. I'm still not even sure if the weird panning issue was permanently fixed with the firmware reset. It just went away today. I have no idea if it's going to come back. I'm not even sure that I'm going to keep it. I want to, because I know that Akai is going to eventually patch most of this stuff and deliver in their better late than never fashion, and probably add a bunch of features that were never promised in the first place, like they did with the Force or the MPC Live. But I also kind of want to return it as a precedent and buy it when that stuff finally happens. Or maybe this video, which to me is an uncomfortable exception to my usual content, is the precedent. Maybe you are on the fence, and now you know to wait until these things are fixed. That's up to you, obviously. Either way, thanks for hearing me vent and listening to my song, pal. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to my channel and click that little notification bell, and share it. If you want to stalk me on social media, the link to do that's down below. If you want access to tons of field recordings, audio assets, unreleased music, and an incredible community with monthly songwriting challenges and game servers, then my Patreon is for you, and you can join for as little as $1. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.